across the city.
Okay. I'm sorry. A couple more things. It just, I was born here. I went to Point Loma High School. I grew up in the Midway area, and my family has, of course, business real estate here. Uh, my family's home is not that far away from where I'm sitting right now, and this is fairly alarming to me. I have to agree with Kathy on a lot of aspects, which we don't need to reiterate. And I also agree with DK that things like this are needed, but we are just we're seemingly funneling this so much into the Midway area that is just very upsetting. At this point in my life, I'm 65 years old, and it just not, I don't want to use terrifying, but it's just very concerning how much is being built up around here to provide for those that some need, some desire, some don't care, some are indifferent, and some will have nothing to do with it. It's just very upsetting on a couple different levels, and I'll just leave it at that. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Todd. Amy, I see your comment in this thing. You can't raise your hand, but feel free to unmute and answer your question or provide your comment.
Yeah, hey, I just want to let everyone know, we have a significant portion of voucher program people here at the Orchard. I'm not exactly sure that, you're going to see, it's not the same as dealing with shelters. It's a completely different kind of situation. I would think that the Ramada might want to work, where they take over the Ramada, they might want to work with a particular group of people, like say seniors that need housing, more so than just saying, well, we know what the kind of homeless we have here. We have a variety. We have the people who are very, very old, who can't earn anymore, and they're working poor. They work jobs and they can't afford housing. And then you have the people who are basically riffraff, basically like they live with family when they want to, and then they're out there soliciting and doing criminal acts and all that. So my suggestion is, or my input is how are we going to, if we're going to give housing to people over there on Midway in an area that everyone has expressed our concern about, this area is dangerous. It's gotten dangerous. And if we're going to create housing for these folks, and San Diego Housing is a very dot the I, cross the T. I work very closely with San Diego Housing, very competent people. But if they would maybe focus on maybe seniors or vets or, groups of people who, without violating fair housing, of course, but if we could, if we could focus more on particular groups that have gotten kicked, that have gotten a really hard life and can't earn enough to make housing, because housing is ridiculous. And there's a lot of people who are working homeless now. So have we considered that? That's all I got to say.
Sure, and some really good points there. So yes, we do, as part of the population mix, we've included veterans and transition age youth. We know that transition age youth, when we get them, when they first become homeless, we can really change the trajectory of their lives, right? And incredibly effective and important ways, and really start addressing sort of generational homelessness and generational poverty. And as I mentioned, in one of our sites, we have both transition age youth and veterans, and that's been very successful. So the idea is that this is a mixed community. So it isn't just all seniors, it isn't just all veterans, it isn't just all transition age youth. It would be a mixed community, and probably some individuals from some other sort of general population as well. And I would certainly agree that when we look at some of these special populations, they have unique needs, and the service model is really made to reflect that and create a thriving community.
So what is a transitional youth? What does that mean?
So 18 to 24. Good question. Sorry, it's another acronym, right? Or lingo. It's youth ages 18 to 24.
So they're not like just kids who orphaned out of welfare. They're anyone 18 to 24. I mean, not welfare. I mean, what was
foster
it?
care.
Foster care. Yeah. They're not ones who just age out. They're people who, anyone 18 to 24 who are struggling to find housing.
Who have a long-term disability and are experiencing homelessness. So these are some of our most vulnerable youth.
Yeah, and I can agree with that. I mean, that's fair.
I think, yeah, Lisa, just to kind of maybe like put a finer point on that, my question is, and this will be the last one, I think, unless anyone else has anything burning. You know, you'd mentioned that there's a few milestones ahead. You know, you still need approvals from board of directors, city council. Do those, I guess, approval bodies have any authority or say in kind of what Amy's talking to of who actually does? Like, you know, my thought is that if there are still milestones that you need to clear, you know, do we have as a community or as the general public any sort of opportunity to engage with those decision makers and to let them know what we're, I guess, sort of partial to or preferential to? Is there any capacity at all in this system for us to actually influence who does come in or who
Certainly.
is eligible for the space?
So I will say two things. One, anything you share with me, I'm happy to share with our leadership.
Sure.
But I also want you to feel like comfortable with your own direct connections, right? So we have, through any of our processes, when we take something to our board of commissioners and then to the housing authority, city council, there's also public comment. So there's certainly opportunity for input on sort of populations and things like that. I will say that certain populations, veterans being one of them, you know, score higher in the grant application. So we also think about, you know, are we going to be successful in going after the funding we want to? So we will certainly make sure that, you know, any adjustments that maybe get recommended during a commissioner meeting or during, you know, a housing authority meeting, that we inform them how that might positively or negatively impact, you know, our funding opportunities. So that's important. So that would be a conversation that we would have. And then we also think, okay, well, wouldn't it be great to do all seniors? But if there's no elevator, I don't want to do all seniors, because seniors, not all seniors might be able to get upstairs, right? Just like nuts and bolts kind of things that you have to think through. But absolutely, there's space for that one for you to share with us. And I'm happy, you know, if as a planning group you wanted to get together and figure out what your preferences or concerns or recommendations would be, we can share that. But you also have the opportunity to do that during public comment. Sure.
Totally. Thank you. Yeah, I mean, I think about that because today is obviously an informational item. This is just the first time we've engaged with this.
That's why we're here way before April.
Yep. I think we're all going to want to spend some time with this information and noodle on it and probably discuss it a couple more times. But at some point, yeah, you know, if the group is interested, I'd be happy to, you know, docket an action item where we can sort of, you know, memorialize our comments or our preferences in a letter, send that through to the body. So, buddy, to the extent you can, when it comes to those different dates and timelines that we mentioned, you know, as long as we can have, I think, ample heads up, we can conduct ourselves accordingly as well. So thank you.
Right. And when we're back in March, we'll make sure we should have our dates finalized for April. So we'll share them at that time too.
Perfect. Okay, cool. Thank you. That was a heavy one, but
thanks for having us.
Yes, thank you.
I appreciate the candor and the conversation. So we are running a little behind, but it's all good. We've got one more item that I know we want to get to, only because we spent so much time talking about this last month as well. So Marlon, thank you for your patience. Thank you for being here the entire 2 hours so far.
Sure, no problem.
Welcome you to the group and give you the floor now.
Yeah, great. Thank you very much. So I guess the topic is the CPG reform. I don't have a presentation. I thought maybe we could just have a conversation and then I could just hear a bunch of questions from everyone. But before we start that, I thought maybe I just give you guys a kind of a general overview of kind of what our game plan is for CPG compliance for this year. As you know, with the approval of the reform, CPGs have to seek recognition as independent organizations by the City Council. And so that requires four things: an application, new operating procedures, guidelines for ethical standards, and a participation representation plan. So those four things. So the application, we're working on that. It's basically going to be like, who are you guys? Who are your members? Some objective information and, questions like, what makes you guys qualified to represent the community? Things like that. It's going to be an online type of application. That's what we're looking at. And it should be available sometime in April. We are working with a consultant that's going to be under contract soon to kind of help us with the outreach. And what we're envisioning is having a series of workshops out in the community to act as kind of workshop clinics, because if any of you guys have reviewed the material that was approved under the new amended council policy, there's some things you guys got to fill out. It's almost kind of like putting together a grant for your community. You've got to kind of come up with justification as to why your organization is the best at representing your community and it's diverse and whatnot. So we're going to be putting that together once the consultants are on board. We're looking to get those workshops set probably starting as early as April, maybe May through the summer. We're also going to set up individualized assistance. So essentially that's like, office hours with the professor. You guys got specific questions, need help filling out the application or need some ideas or whatnot. The consultants are going to be able to help you with that. So individualized assistance. There's also been some questions about other groups wanting to represent the community. So if there's say a competing organization, another community-based organization that wants to vie for representing the community, that's also possible. The council policy, when it was adopted, as well as the resolution, did identify other potential interested advisory groups. And so we would be coming up with evaluative criteria in that case. And we're still working on that we should have that out by April as well. It's probably going to be centered around and focused around diversity and representation and how best the community planning group can kind of promote that and maintain that. One of the things with this whole entire effort is it does require the planning groups to put a lot of thought and effort into putting the application together. The ethical standards document basically talks about all these instances like plan group donations, direct economic interests, all the things that would be kind of a situation where the planning group would have to conduct themselves and be kind of operating on the right, not the wrong. So it's a kind of a description on what those procedures for conduct would be. The operating procedures are basically going to be modeled like your bylaws. In the amended council policy, there's a section in there called terms and conditions. Essentially, that's what the new operating procedures are going to be modeled after. If you look at that, it's got like kind of almost like a template. It says like, in the name of the planning group and the things that you guys would be doing to comply with all these different sections, like in the old bylaws, like elections, membership, representation. And so on representation, the participation and representation plan, which is the other document that would need to be submitted, is going to outline kind of the planning group's goals about community participation, broadening outreach, diversification and representation on the board, how you guys intend to get the word out on the things that you guys are doing, what kind of partnerships you guys are building in the community with other organizations like, town councils or business districts, just to kind of represent your entire community from all aspects of the planning area. So that document's going to be pretty key in terms of what techniques you guys will probably be looking at to include as part of your procedures. And again, some of those ideas, that's where staff and the consultant would be assisting the planning groups in maybe developing these, coming up with these ideas, and then having those described in your application package. So those are the 4 things. I also mentioned that there would be criteria. And then, of course, the deadline for submitting this application would be the end of this year, December 31st, 2023. And then starting in the new year in 2024, staff will be bringing these applications forward to City Council. And then again, if there are competing applications, we would provide a recommendation and have the City Council decide who would be best to represent the planning group or the planning area, I'm sorry. So that in a nutshell is kind of what we're thinking. And so, yeah, I'm just here to answer any questions and any concerns that you guys may have.
Cool, awesome, thank you. That was comprehensive. Quick question, I'm assuming those are all, those details that you've just given us are on the website, or we can reference those or read those somewhere as well?
They will be on the website. I'm putting an FAQ together. Okay. So that's for our, our community planners as well as the community members, so that you have a general idea of what the, the overall approach and game plan is for CPG compliance.
Okay, cool. So does anyone else from the board have any questions before I go in? Because I have like too many, but I'll let anyone else jump in first. No, good, good. Okay.
Well, I had some thoughts, but I want to hear your questions first because my head's kind of reeling a little bit. So I'll let you go first because you're very articulate and you're awesome with how you represent. So I'm just going to let you speak first.
Thank you, Amy. Yeah, so like I said, lots going on there. I think that's all solid there. I don't anticipate here in Midway us having, you know, sort of these competing groups or anything like that. I imagine other groups have that concern. We're the only people who do anything here, it feels like. But in the, I guess in the instance of this criteria and this rubric that you're putting together and the timeline for all of that, is there anything that we could or should be doing now as a group to just get prepared in advance? You know, like I said, we had a discussion last month that was, I guess, at this point speculative, because most of what you just told me is new information to me as well. So I want to make sure that we're, one, using our time effectively here, getting as far in front of something or, you know, this sort of process as we can, but then ultimately not wasting our time working on something that's not going to be considered or relevant overall.
Oh, that's a great question. Yeah, I would recommend looking at those approved documents. September 13, 2022 was the city council date. If you look in the website, the docket materials are there. So looking at the council policy, the amended one, there's a strikeout underline. Look at the clean one. It's a lot easier on the eyes to look at.
I've shared all those resources just by the way. I've shared everything that is on the site currently with this group already, and I'm happy to do it again because I've been tracking this issue. So I'm tracking that as well.
Oh, perfect. So yeah, that's what I would recommend the groups take a look at. I know some of my groups have formed subcommittees to take a look at that and just start, you know, filling in the blanks and kind of just using those documents as templates and filling it in as they go. And so when we get to the point where we're having those workshops, and if you want to bring something that you've already drafted, you're that step further along in the process in terms of getting your application together.
Cool. Okay. And so one of my other questions is, like I said, part of the reason I don't anticipate too much, I guess, competition is that we, even in this group, have historically suffered with vacancies and apathy, I guess, in general. And so I'm wondering, as we get geared up for March, which is traditionally the month in which planning groups hold elections, and I'm not anticipating a swath of new blood, but I guess I'm kind of curious as to how much importance or relevance should we put into this March election cycle coming up next meeting, if we know that there are multiple different things, and, you know, we can appoint a new member to a vacancy at any time per our current bylaws. Trying to get a sense for how much relevance or energy should we put into our March election are really being competitive.
Oh, another great question. Yeah, so we're kind of in this transition, right? We're coming out of COVID and the whole emergency state. Now we're going to in-person meetings, doing our March elections, and then we've got the council policy and the CPG form to comply with. So first and foremost, follow your current adopted bylaws until your group is recognized under the new council policy. So maintain that. In the situation where you already have, you know, certain seats that are already established per your current bylaws, that's fine to run your elections via filling those seats. However, when you do come around to, say, improving, maybe enhancing whatever representation and diversity on your group, it's fine to kind of set those out as this is what we're planning to do, because once, say, you know, say, for example, I'm not really sure how your seats are made up, but let's say that they were all the residential seats. And then of course you guys got business folks and, you know, nonprofits that might be interested and stuff like that. In these new operating procedures, I would identify, you know, how we would maybe break that up or change it up a little bit. But for the current elections now, again, go work under your current bylaws. So if that becomes an issue, and say maybe your group might be not as diverse or representative of the various stakeholders' interests in the community right now, if you outline what, you know, your intent to epitomize that or implement that as part of your operating procedures going forward, that's fine. You could do it that way. Because we know it's, again, we're transitioning into new territory here.
Yeah, no, I understand that. Okay.
Yeah.
And then, yeah, just lastly, I'd heard you mention this, and I was at CPC when you came last month. This is the first time that this group has seen this since, but you'd mentioned in-person meetings. Can we just clarify? I know that the state of emergency is, I guess, winding down or expiring. What I keep hearing, and I don't want you to say what I'm afraid you're gonna say, but I know you're gonna say it. But I keep hearing that as of March, which is next month, we're having to go back to in-person fully unless we want to do the whole hybrid thing. So can you please speak to that briefly?
Yeah, so, okay. So the governor is lifting the state of emergency February 28th, last day of February. City council actions for continuing the state of emergency will also coincide with February 28th. So March is when you would start having in-person meetings. Now, can a group still have Zoom meetings, virtual meetings, teleconference meetings? Yes, you can still have virtual meetings, but now they are subject to the Brown Act requirements for virtual meetings. Under the state of emergency, there was a special, Senate bill that said, hey, you can have virtual meetings, but here are some exceptions, like to relax things so that you guys could have these meetings. And that main thing is not having to advertise any of the board members' meeting locations and having those accessible to anyone from the public.
Mhm.
So now, because that state of emergency is gone, if any of the board members decide to have a virtual or actually attend the meeting virtually, your addresses, your meeting locations or teleconference locations need to be put on the agenda and be publicly accessible to the public. And the public can attend, that location, whether it's a home office, a conference room in your business, they can attend and they can make public comment and address the virtual meeting from that location.
Well, we'll find a way to address that because that obviously is going to be a challenge for us and every other group who has to do that. So
no, we totally understand. I mean, that was expressed pretty clear in CPC. And the Brown Act, was meant for government folks, government officials and appointed folks to like commissions and boards where, they were really, subject to the Brown Act. The council policy is what makes the planning group subject to the Brown Act. And so we're kind of just dealing with that provision. I mean, we want to look at some other options, but nothing has solidified just yet in terms of getting some relaxation regarding that provision.
okay, that's fair. I realize that I think we've got 4 board members left, but we're underneath quorum as it stands at this moment. There's no actions to be taken, so I'll just keep rolling and punch through. But if anyone else has any other questions, now would be a great time. Otherwise, we'll say thank you to Marlon, and then I'll just power through whatever else I have. But Amy, I know you said you had a couple ideas. Are you good?
Yeah, I'm good. We'll talk about this in the future.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, this is hectic and complex. But I appreciate your time, Marlon. Like I said, I realize you've been here for a couple hours, so thank you for all of that. April, obviously, we'll look to circle back with all of those different resources. I'll keep an eye on the planning group's website, the city site for all the planning groups. I'm on all the email lists, so.
Yeah, and feel free to email me, DK, if you have any specific questions or from your board, if you want to forward, because, as we're going along, I'm gathering all that and it'll help other people as well.
Okay, I appreciate it.
Yeah, Martin, I was gonna say just a clarification is if there's not an in-person meeting location at all, then we'll need to at least have one address available where somebody from the public could come and participate in the Zoom meetings, basically. But or if one of the board members isn't there at all, they have to disclose where they're at, even though there may be an in-person location. So if a board was having it in the library somewhere, but half the board was Zooming, as long as the library address was available for the public, will that suffice? Or kind of, I understand it's just try to get the public to participate if they don't have a computer or Zoom or something.
Right.
Is that kind of the thought?
So let's put it this way. So let's say there's a quorum of board members meeting at the library and they're broadcasting their meeting via Zoom, right? But then there may be 1 or 2 board members that for some reason can't make the in-person meeting, but they want to attend virtually. And so they would have to list their addresses on the agenda 72 hours in advance and have those meeting locations or teleconference locations, as it's in the Brown Act, accessible to the public, and the public can attend and make comment from those locations. And as you guys are broadcasting it via live stream, YouTube or Zoom, anyone from the public can use their own Zoom application or YouTube to watch the meeting as well.
Got it.
The real sticking point is if any of the board members are not attending the meeting in person, but the meeting virtually, they gotta have those addresses available to the public
Yeah.
on the agenda. That's the big thing.
Right.
Yeah,
Even if there is a public meeting going on, though.
that's right. Yeah.
Right.
And so the public
If-
meeting
if
stays
it-
in the library, right? And but in any case that one of the board members say, well, I can't attend in person, but I'll meet virtually.
Mhm.
And if they do that, then their teleconference location has to be public. Now,
Right.
you could have your quorum right at the library and see those other people, those other board members who can attend, you know, they could say that they're absent that day and the meeting could go on, you know, but it's going to be broadcasted.
Right. Or and you probably don't have to be, say you're in another state watching. Do you have to be in the community planning area? You know,
Well, the
posted there?
quorum, preferably you need to be in the jurisdiction, and the quorum of the planning group needs to be in the jurisdiction.
But
Yeah.
so hypothetically, just to carry this thread through, if we had a quorum physically present at Bay City or wherever,
Uh-huh.
anyone who's a member of the board or the community could zoom in from anywhere, not participate as a board member, but be part of just like the audience or the public. In
Ooh,
theory.
yeah.
They
Yeah,
wouldn't
I think
vote, they wouldn't
technically-
participate, but they could listen in. And
Yeah, technically, the way I understand that, and I mean, theoretically, yeah, that's possible. They could just be someone in the audience, but just kind of just observing, not participating, like, you know, if they recuse
Not voting.
themselves.
yeah, not
That's
voting.
that's an interesting
Yeah.
theoretical
That's a
one.
loophole
Yeah,
that I think
yeah.
is-
I mean, they
Can
wouldn't
I,
vote.
can I
I mean,
ask
they
a
could
quick
vote.
question?
Yeah.
Yeah, sure,
Can I-
go me.
Okay, so I skip my lunch because, you know, I skip my lunch to do these meetings, and I come home and I, you know, just, you know, I'm off duty from work, and I just come to my apartment to do these. And so does that mean other people in the property have to come to my apartment? Like, I don't mind if Judy does because she's part of the board. I mean, that's great. But I have to let people into my apartment to do this?
Yeah.
I'm confused.
That's
Yeah,
the
you would.
implication.
So you would be a board member attending the meeting virtually, right? And say the other
Right.
members are in the library meeting in person, but the planning group is broadcasting via Zoom or a YouTube live stream for the public. And so if you would be attending, you know, maybe you needed to be there to make a quorum, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, your address would be on that agenda that would go out 72 hours in advance as a teleconference location for anyone from the public to attend the meeting virtually and then also make public comment. So they would be
I
able to
think-
do that from the
Why
resident.
would that be necessary if they're already in a public, if it's already being done in a public place? Why would you expose a human being to public exposure like that to their own home if they're just, you know, they're doing their own volunteer work and they're giving up their lunchtime at work and their work time and all that? Why would you do that? I mean, yeah, and how would I ever
To-
fit anybody into like
discourage
a
you from
little
doing
tiny
it, yeah.
apartment? These are small apartments.
True. Okay, so I got two things. So one, say they don't necessarily have to go to your residence to attend the meeting. They could go to the public, the in-person meeting if that was available to them or if it was convenient for them and they live close by. Since you're a board member and you are subject to the Brown Act, and the Brown Act was meant to be, you know, to promote transparency. But again, you know, it was meant for government officials and these appointed boards and commission members.
City council.
Exactly, city council, to be transparent and accountable. So if you were one of those people and you were going to participate from some other location, you need to be transparent. You can't just be making decisions, participating out in the void. You need to be transparent and have your actions subject to people being them being publicly available.
They could be seen face to face.
Exactly. Yeah. Mhm. So it's a transparency accountability thing. That's the Brown Act. Remember the open meetings law.
Yeah, I
That's
was gonna say-
basically what
Yeah,
that
I don't remember all the details of the cow thing that we had to do, but I gotta tell you, I mean, we're not even getting paid. Having people come into your home,
Right.
that's, you know, and I'm telling you, they're gonna come in. Oh, they're gonna come here. They're not gonna go to the library if, you know, if they're interested in it. They're
They
gonna
don't-
come
we don't
here if
have
they
a
live here at
library.
the orchard, you know.
They're just going to see an address and go to it and be confused.
Well, no, they're gonna go
Yeah.
to it because they know it's my apartment.
Yeah.
They're gonna go to it because it's because, you know, we're dealing with, you know, that this is where they live,
Mhm.
you
Right.
know,
Well,
yeah, that's.
But your name wouldn't have to
yeah,
be on
that's a little-
your name wouldn't have to be on the teleconference location, but the address would be. So I mean, I don't think they'd make that I wouldn't think they'd make the relationship unless they knew your address and say, oh, that's, Amy's residence. I'm
Well,
gonna,
I'm the assistant
her house.
manager and I've been here for 10 years working in the office. So they do know me. I mean, a lot of people I lease to, so they do know who I am. So the apartment number would not be listed?
No, your address would be listed if you were attending virtually.
Yeah, that's, wow. Okay. Thank you for letting me know that. I didn't
Sure.
think it that far through. Okay, thank you.
Mhm.
Cool. Okay, like I said, Marlon, I appreciate it. I think that's that's up for me. If anyone else has anything else, feel free to speak up, but I'm good for now.
Do we still have Bay City as available to us?
Yeah, I've put a couple pings out to folks. They've
We don't
done
have a
actually some
library.
improvements on that room at Bay City that we used to do. So, it's an option, but it's tough, right? To
Yeah.
Mhm.
expect, because Marlon, to your point, I don't know if you're aware of this, in our Midway community, we have no public facilities. We don't have a
Right.
library. There's a fire station, but that's obviously first responders. So we've always been challenged with physical
Schools,
locations.
yeah.
There's no school, there's no daycare. Like it's thin out here in Midway.
There's the county building, yeah, that's
Yeah,
about
and that's different jurisdiction at the county level, and
How about
So we-
Liberty Station? Aren't there some spots that are just like
outside the planning area. The Liberty Station. is
oh,
outside
that's
the
right.
planning area.
That's right. Yeah, you're right. Mhm.
Yeah. So no, we inside the bounds of the Midway-Pacific Highway community planning area, we have no public city-owned facilities. The best case scenario is like city-owned property, like the sports arena, but
Mhm.
even that is,
It's not there.
I mean, historically that's never been attainable. And so maybe with these Midway Rising people, I don't know what their level of access to the building is itself. I don't
Mhm.
think they have the keys to the doors, frankly, but we have to get real creative real soon here. So I've got a couple things out, sort of lines in the water, if you will, but it's a concern of ours for sure.
No. Other groups share the same situation.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we can't even go downtown and hold it at your guys' office if we wanted to.
Oh yeah, that place has changed. Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah, and I
Yeah.
think the annex that we had, I think we're moving. So I don't know who's gonna be occupying that annex anymore. So we'll see.
Cool. Yeah.
Okay,
Hectic, but we'll manage to persevere. That I can confirm.
we're just trying to help
Yeah.
Appreciate that.
for free.
Awesome. Yes, because we enjoy it. Cool. No,
2.5
thank you,
hours,
Mon.
yeah.
I appreciate it. And then for the rest of us who are here, I can kind of bundle my chair report and CPC report realistically. That is my update, right? At CPC last month is when I found out that the emergency operations are sort of, the emergency order is expiring, and as such, effective immediately.
The meetings are gonna be
We need to
affected.
transition. So how exactly we do that? Like I said, I've reached out to Bay City, the EF place where we had the Midway Rising event last week. I've already touched base with them. There's a couple people, but like at the end of the day, it's difficult for any of them to commit to hosting us.
Full, yeah, for
on a regular-
extended basis, right?
Part of what I was, I guess, alluding to in the questions about like our, what do you call it? Our elections next month is, I almost wonder, like, yes, I guess the guidance is to adhere to our current bylaws, but I'm wondering if we have to go through and resubmit these things. I don't know what stops us from just continuing on Zoom and working towards the official approval next time, like before the end of the year. That's for sure. That's a conversation for the wider board, not for me to make. But like, I think that there's a legit question there of like, we have the track record that we have the experience that we have, we all of the different pieces of compliance as it pertains to whatever this next version of planning groups looks like. I don't think that there's anything that is there that prohibits us from, like I said, just working towards, because imagine if we were not currently a planning group, imagine if we were one of these external entities and we wanted to comply with, CPG reform going further forward, we could just work to address those issues directly. And frankly, those groups, if they exist now, they're not beholden to the same, council policy that we are
doing whatever they
currently
want.
beholden to.
Right.
So I don't think there's anything stopping us from meeting. Maybe the city wouldn't publish our agendas if we were meeting virtually and not in person. But I think for the the 7 or 8 or 9 of us, I think there's 10 technically, that are members of the board, I don't know what's stopping us from coming, right? I think we've got the muscle memory. And even if, I've got the email addresses of all the different government reports, like, I don't know, it's a conversation for the water board. What I'm committed to doing is finding us a physical location for March. I'll communicate all of what I can find between now and ideally the end of this month. And so by March 1, we have a plan of attack. But that's really the thrust of even like that old business item for the elections committee. I'm not anticipating new blood. I mean, we've advertised to the best of our ability. We've put it out, but we've got 3 vacancies, if not more. So I doubt that anyone's going to pop up and fill this board and have a contended election. So I'll put it all in an email. Like I said, I'll post this this recording to the YouTube as we always do. We'll get our minutes out. And then ideally by March, we'll have a physical location. But as of this moment, that's to be confirmed.
Yeah, and why is it on us to find one? Should the city say, hey, here's where you're gonna meet, here's where you have to meet, or something, or here's your options. Just say, oh, you figure it out. Oh, and you have to do it. Like, okay, what are we supposed to just go rent a
basically
space?
overnight too, right? We're transitioning from being virtual for the last almost 3 years to now back in person. Effectively.
Yeah, I could find a landlord to rent us a big conference room, but we're gonna sign a lease.
Yeah, exactly.
Who's gonna pay the rent?
What's the cost of that?
we don't have free rent, a couple $1,000 a month. So there's vacant space out there, but no one's gonna give it to you for free.
Yeah.
So Zoom is not even free. We're the ones
Yeah.
they're not even paying for our Zoom, do they?
I pay for the Zoom out of my pocket. So.
Right.
Are you
So-
kidding? You pay for it out of your pocket?
Well,
Are you serious?
To be fair,
Uses it for other stuff. Yeah.
yeah, I have a paid Zoom account for other things. And
There's
I
there's
just
a
use this for
$500
this too.
stipend, guys. You could use that for Zoom.
Yeah, no, I'm aware.
We're trying to get
Well,
going
you
on the
need to do
website
that.
too.
You should not be paying for it for yourself. You should not be paying it out of your own pocket. That's wrong.
Yeah.
We're just trying to make the neighborhood a nicer place.
Yeah.
I mean, you shouldn't go broke doing it.
Yeah.
Jeez. Okay, so what did Bay City say?
Bay City said they have a space. They just can't confirm that we'll be able to use it every single month.
Regularly.
So for March, I haven't gotten confirmation that we can use it for March. Ideally, I'd like to use somewhere else if I'm being completely honest, just because it's a place of business and that they don't typically open until after 4 p.m.
3.
Yeah, we typically meet at 4. They don't even open on Wednesdays until 4 p.m. So already we're asking them to staff and to change their business model. So I'm trying to avoid leaning on anyone to deviate. But the EF school, they have programming in their classrooms up until 5 p.m. All right, so it's a bit of a conundrum. I think if I really begged hard, I can get Bay City to open for us for that 3 o'clock, because I mean they might have like, what do you call it? Like a brewer is there working, but they don't have like staff, sort of there that early. It's
Right.
a 1 hour difference. I think it's mostly okay, but what if someone in the audience wants to grab a beer while they watch us do our thing? That it just, there's every attempt at a solution basically breeds new questions. So we just have to kind of figure out what is going to work as far as the immediate short term, and then ultimately, because I think honestly, there has to be some level of, whether it's city council or whoever, that addresses, I think that has the ability or the authority to address this little stipulation of the Brown Act. I think the Brown Act technically is a state thing. I've already put a couple of lines in the wire to see if we can get Brown Act reform, like as part of the, our assembly members legislative package, but that's not going to change overnight either, right? Like that's a whole process that has to
It
go
won't
all
be
the way
this year,
to
right?
make, assembly, state senate, get signed by the government.
Yeah.
So I've asked the
Yeah,
question.
because
but-
nobody's coming into my apartment unless I know them.
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. I wouldn't want any one of us
So
to put any of our
tiny. It's such a tiny. It's so tiny. Nobody could even fit in here. I mean,
anybody. And bear in mind, we're talking about how do we get more people, right? Like we
exactly.
making
We
it
don't
harder
have
and
enough
harder.
people, and they're going to be fussy about who's interested in their community. I mean, this community is, we don't have a lot of residential people here. That's the problem. It's not residential enough.
Yeah.
But anyway, so I was going to tell you, I did do a messaging to you, but I think it was late in the meeting last time, that if you need help for the election, I did the election before.
Okay. Yeah.
So
I
if you
think
need any kind of help.
Yeah, I put you, Jason, and I in an email. Jason, you'd sent over some things that I read through, but I don't think I've responded to yet. So like, yes, most of your records match my records. But we can work through that on email.
Yeah, any kind of help you need, let me know.
Okay.
Yeah, they have a conference, kind of like a big area in Red Lobster. No, I'm sorry, Olive Garden. They have a little, they have an area. We had a party there for our staff, probably about the same size as what we would have for a meeting. I don't know if they're willing to, let it out or anything. But you know, I can find out, I can give them a call. But that's the only large area I can think of in our neighborhood.
Yeah, there's that office park that's behind Phil's Barbecue. There's a couple businesses there. One of them I have a contact in. You know, I haven't reached out to that person yet because I'm also, it just crossed my mind, to be honest. But he may have a conference table or a conference room.
Where's that?
It's
Across from you.
one of the businesses that's in, you know, the office park that's basically across from the orchards, right behind
Right.
like Phil's Barbecue.
Yeah.
So I don't know, actually, I don't even know exactly where his office is, but I know someone who has an office there. And
Nice.
so like literally as we've been talking right now, I was like, oh, maybe I can ask that guy. But let me
Nice.
ping him and see if he'd be open to, even if
some,
it's just like
some of those are government contractors.
Yeah.
What about
One
those
guy I
big-
know, it's a private business and he's the principal there. So like if he's interested and available, then he's got at least the authority to make that decision himself.
See, if
But-
there's
About
no profit to be made, why would these people even open up their doors? Because it opens
It's
them up to
liability.
liability
Yeah.
and,
Uh-huh,
you know,
uh-huh.
What about Home
So-
Depot or Target or some of these big box stores? I don't know.
You'd hope so.
They gotta have training rooms, you know, but,
Yeah,
and they're really letting people into their store. But,
yeah,
or we can just say just for the election, but I don't know.
that's a good point.
I know you have to have a relationship with somebody.
Mhm.
I don't know.
Well, I'll reach out to the lady who manages over there at that that whole Red Lobster little thing. She's a
Yeah.
really nice lady. I don't know if she's going to do it because again, liability. I mean,
Mhm.
who's going to just open up your doors for no money? But
Sure.
I'll reach out to her tomorrow.
Okay.
She's a very nice lady.
Mhm.
She's very nice to our residents who park over there.
Mhm.
So I'll see if there's anything that she's got available. But you know, I'm just not optimistic when there's no, you know, they're not getting anything out of it except, you know,
Yeah.
possibly getting
Yeah.
sued if somebody falls.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
You know?
Best case scenario, they can say that they're contributing to the community, right? And that's
Yeah,
kinda-
well, that's what I'm going to say. When we talk about like how we worked really hard on getting the homeless stuff under control,
Mhm.
and you know everything we do. So I'll touch base with her. You know what, DK, I'll email you whatever happens.
Okay.
I'll actually CC you on it so you can
Perfect.
see everything. So
Cool. Thank you, Amy. I appreciate that. And then, like I said,
Yeah.
I'll continue to probe in the things that I've worked on, and we'll see what we can come up with in the next few weeks.
all right, sounds good.
Cool.
Thank you for
Um,
everything you guys do. Both of you guys are so awesome.
Oh, I appreciate it. I
Oh,
know this
thank
is
you,
a
guys.
lot.
You-
Thank you all
you
for
guys
staying
are-
45 minutes later than usual. I know we try to be done by 5,
Yeah.
but here we are.
I know, but we care about our community. So you take care. I'll talk to you soon.
Awesome. Cool. Thanks, everyone.
Okay, bye.
Good
Okay,
night.
bye. Night.